So let's talk Survivor. We had a show last night that was really kind of amazing. It opened up with Cochrane and the rest of the Survivor tribe coming back after tribal council last week and talking about how Cochrane's next move is to go become the double agent to fool Upulu into believing this cockamamie story they've come up with, that Cochrane had the idol, he used it on himself and voted against Ozzy, and Cochrane was the sole reason that Ozzy was sent to Redemption Island, blah, 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 blah. And so that happens, and they're talking about it. Then we cut to Ozzy going to Redemption Island trying to sell Christine on the same story. Now, what I don't get about him trying to sell Christine is he's banking on the fact that he's going to beat her. So why the hell tell her this cockamamie story? But anyhow, Ozzy, Mr. Full of himself, is all into this. Oh, this is a master plan. We're going to do this. And this entire Survivor tribe is quite convinced that they've come up with this great plan. So cut to the duel, and everybody goes to the duel. This is a huge indicator you're having a merge when they say, instead of 2 people, y'all go. So both tribes show up, and this is Ozzy puts on this performance about how he was wronged by Cochrane, and the whole time the Upulu's tribe is sitting there going, come on. Albert says, I don't buy it. Coach is shaking his head. They clearly understand that this is nothing but a line of bull, but Ozzy thinks he's pulled off a master coup in fooling them. So then they merge. Everybody's eating. Everybody's having a good time, asking where everybody's from. And Ozzy and Jim and Keith send Cochrane to the other side to be the double agent. And it's kind of funny because, Cochrane was of no use to Keith, Jim, or Ozzy right up until Ozzy came up with this great plan to send himself to Redemption Island, beat Christine, then they'd have the numbers 6-6. Dumb plan, because had they gotten rid of Cochrane and Christine beat him in the duel, she would have come back and sided with them, and they wouldn't be in the shape they're in now. So Cochrane goes to try to pull the wool over Coach's eyes, and Coach sits there and listens, and Coach is playing a masterful game this time around. Just really great. So Coach listens, and he listens. And then he says, let me tell you something. I think you're trying to fool me. And here's what I think you all did. And then step by step, he tells Cochrane their entire plan. And then he says, my tribe is 6 strong. We're voting one way. There's no swaying us. So we're going to all go to the tribal council, and it's going to be 6-6, and then it's going to be 6-6 again, and then it's going to go to stones, and see how much you like your odds then. So then Coach starts working Cochrane to say, now, you gave me this sob story about how they didn't like you. They've never accepted you. You've been on the outs with your own tribe the entire time. If that's true, consider coming working with us. And he starts making inroads with Cochrane. So then Cochrane goes to talk to Dawn. Now Dawn feels suddenly very badly for the way Cochrane has been treated since the moment this tribe was formed, because he was clearly on the short list. Weak guy, we don't need him, we don't want him, he's going home. Dawn starts crying. She feels like she should have stood up for him. She feels like that she has a son his age or close to his age, and maybe she should have been a better person and stood up for Cochrane, but she was busy worrying about her own life in the game. So it looks like Dawn is going to join Cochrane and flip on the Survivor tribe. Then we go to immunity, and immunity is it's interesting because, first of all, they name the new tribe Te-Tuna, T-E-T-U-N-A, and it's about the origins of the coconut. So, appropriately, the immunity challenge is standing on some planks of wood, balancing yourself, and holding 2 strings and a coconut in it. And the longer you hold it, the weaker, or your arms start to shake. And so in round 1, immediately Cochrane goes out. He's done, and then so does little Edna. So the 2 smallest people out in round 1. So we go to round 2. Whitney goes out, Sophie goes out. Now there's 2 immunity idols, one for the men, one for the women. And there's Dawn, the last standing woman. She gets the immunity idol for the women. Left in round 2 are all the men. So then Coach goes out, then Rick goes out, then Jim goes out, then Keith goes out, all in round 2. The last round is now Brendan, Albert, and Ozzy. Brendan goes out, then Albert, and Ozzy, who got his immunity idol back from Cochrane, wins the individual immunity. So now he's got individual immunity, and he has the immunity idol. Cut to after the immunity challenge, and all of a sudden Dawn, who is safe with the immunity necklace around her neck, is having second thoughts about changing on her tribe, who could have cared less about her 2 weeks ago when it was between her and Papa Bear or whatever. So now she's telling Cochrane that she really doesn't want him to flip on his own tribe, and it's about staying true, etc., etc., etc. And I'm thinking to myself, this is all very good of you, Dawn, who is standing there with an immunity necklace around your neck. But what they had done is they told Cochrane the plan, that they were going to use the idol on Whitney, and Cochrane goes and tells the other side everything. Sophie tells him, we're not going to tell you who we're voting for. We're not helping you on this because we don't want to, lead to our own demise. So then we go to the tribal council. So Ozzy's safe and Dawn is safe. Ozzy starts talking, and he, is talking about things, and Jeff asked Sophie, so what did you think about the duel? Because I think it was Albert who said we thought it was a line of bull at the duel. And Sophie says, look, I was somewhat, what's the word? I was insulted with their storyline that they came up, and that we would be gullible enough to believe that they think that is pathetic. And so Ozzy, thinking he's the big man on campus, goes, oh yeah? Well, I do have the immunity idol. Like this is going to scare them or something. So they vote. 6 for Keith, 6 for Rick. Ozzy stands up and uses the idol on Whitney to protect her for some reason. Why you would want to vote off a young woman not as strong as Keith, Jim, or Ozzy is beyond me. Why they think that Upulu would target Whitney is beyond me. But anyhow, Ozzy in his grand moment uses it on Whitney like he's outsmarted them again. Upulu has been 3 steps ahead of Ozzy the entire show. So he uses his immunity idol. That's gone. Guess what? Coach still has his. And they haven't even outed. Upulu has not even spilled the beans that they had the immunity idol. So now Coach has his, and his tribe is keeping their mouth shut. And they vote again. Rick, 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 Rick. And Cochrane flips and votes out Keith. At which point, Jim starts calling him a coward repeatedly. And Brandon says, don't you call him that. And he calls him a coward again. He says, you acting like this towards him is what got you here in the first place. And then Brandon looks at Cochrane and says, you stick by me tonight. It'll be okay. Now, I guess Jeff said that he is going to be annihilated by the tribe next week, and they show some scenes where Albert and Sophie are contemplating flipping sides. Why they do that when they have powers beyond me, but we'll see what happens next week. But it's pretty clear that Cochrane is going to really pay the price for flipping on Survivor. It was a great show. It was great in the fact of watching. I gotta tell you, Ozzy is blowing my mind with his, I'm a strategist. No, you're not, Ozzy. You never were. You're great at competitions, but you're not a strategist. Coach, on the other hand, has done a complete flip on the person he was in previous seasons and has learned a social game that is kind of amazing, and strategically he's doing great. So next week ought to be really fun to watch. Can't wait to see the fallout and what else that goes on. So Keith is at Redemption Island. Christine, after 19 days alone on Redemption Island, loses to Ozzy in the duel, and she did all that fighting for nothing. And the worst part is, Ozzy could have sent Cochran to her, and she'd be back in the game. So she's got to really love Ozzy at this point. All right, thanks for watching Survivor, the recap, and I'll talk to you soon.